Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Sports Select Sports Talk, where I'm sitting here with someone that almost doesn't need an introduction if you're a sports fan, Sara Orlesky. I mean, Sara, we look at your resume here. Simon Fraser grad, you joined TSN in 2008, you covered the Leafs, personally my favorite team, but the Raptors, Blue Jays, Argonauts, CFL on TSN in 2008, now back in Winnipeg. Does hearing your resume kind of make you think back and go, it's been quite a career already?
It has. You know what, I've had a really good fortune over the last, it's difficult to believe that, I want to say this is my 8th year in the business, and I've had the good fortune of doing a number of Stanley Cup Finals, World Junior Championships, and when you start to list out everything that you've done, you think, wow, I can't believe I've had the opportunity to experience so much stuff already. It's been a ton of fun. And
like I said, you came to TSN in 2008. Now, you were with the Score beforehand. How did you make that transfer there? Did TSN come calling, or was there an opening? Like, how did that all work out?
I was fortunate. TSN came calling, and they had secured the rights for CFL and TSN, the exclusive rights, and they came to me and asked whether or not I would be interested in moving to Toronto. I was living in Vancouver at the time, and then whether or not I wanted to be a part of the CFL broadcasts and do the sideline reporting for them, and I jumped at the opportunity because actually it was the initial reason when I was really young that I wanted to get into sports broadcasting was because when I used to watch football and I'd see everyone on the sidelines reporting, I thought that must be the greatest job in the world, to be right down there with the action where everything's happening, and so I jumped at the opportunity when it came along, and it's been quite the ride ever since.
For sure, and you grew up, you were born and raised in Winnipeg, so obviously when you came back to do the Bombers games, was it almost like a little bit of a homecoming for you?
It was. In fact, often I wouldn't even stay at the hotel when that the TSN would put us up at. I'd just go and stay at my parents' place because it was the opportunity to come back and visit. So you can't beat an opportunity to come back to your hometown and get family visits in at the same time. So it was a great chance. And
you talked about the homecoming there. Now you were on maternity leave, according to the Free Press article, when you pretty much made first dibs on the Winnipeg bureau. Tell me about that process. You went from, you're on maternity leave and you're stationed out of Toronto still, and then all of a sudden, this Winnipeg Jets announcement comes down and all that kind of stuff. When did you kind of put that dib in? Was it shortly after the announcement while they were still kind of bargaining the broadcasting rights?
Oh no, this was, this was a year before the announcement was even made, because I was on maternity leave, so my daughter was born in August of 2009, and so it was the spring of 2010, and I guess when rumors were going up again that perhaps Phoenix was going to be in play and maybe they were going to be moving here, and it was heating up a little bit, I put in a call and said, just so that you guys know, if a team goes back to Winnipeg, I want to be the person that opens up that bureau. And I thought it was the perfect scenario. Both my husband and I are from here. Our families are here. We wanted the opportunity to come back. And so I made it be known then. And then throughout that year, and then, of course, as it heated up this past spring, every time that something came up, I made sure that they knew. So it kind of became the running joke. Yes, Sara, we know you want to go back to Winnipeg. We get it. So I made sure that everybody knew my intentions and what my hopes and desires were.
So as much as the Phoenix location kind of yanked on the heartstrings of the fans in Winnipeg, it was also a big thing for you. Were you kind of like following it along as much as the fans were?
So much so. My husband and I would log on and we'd listen to some of the city council meetings because we were dying to know what was going on, because we felt, even though it wasn't official that we would be relocating here and starting the bureau, we knew that there was a good opportunity that could be the case. And so we just felt that we had so much personally invested in a team coming back here. And so we were following it very closely.
And so now all of a sudden, you're back in Winnipeg. You've been here for a few months now with the Jets being back and everything. You said in that same Free Press article, this is probably one of the best sports cities in the world right now. What made you say that?
Because, the fact is, it is. When you look at the sports cities in Canada, there is no better sports city, I would argue right now, than Winnipeg. When you look at the way that fans turned out and supported the Bombers this year, the season that they had, how loud it was at Canadian Stadium. It was such a tremendous atmosphere there. You add in the Jets then, the sold-out games, the passion and enthusiasm that everybody has for all things Jets. That combination, you can't find in other cities. And when speaking with colleagues, I mean, a number of them that have done both, and I'll use Chris Cuthbert as an example. He'll say the same thing, that Winnipeg just couldn't be beat this year. It was so loud at both venues, and the passion. Everybody wanted to talk before the Jets started. Everyone wanted to talk Bombers. Anytime I was in the city, everybody stopped to talk football, and then now it's a football and hockey combination, and it's just a lot of cities have maybe one or the other. They don't have both right now. And that's what makes Winnipeg such a tremendous sports city. We're very lucky here.
And you talked about how loud it gets at the MTS Center. Now, we talked a little bit almost before the show started, just about how loud it actually gets. A lot of the fans that are sitting in the MTS Center can hear how loud it is in their seat. But when you're doing the pregame intro, you're down like right close to you're at ice level.
Yeah.
How loud is it down there?
It's deafening at times. And some of the players have talked about it as well and have spoken. I mean, Tanner Glass has said that he'll sit on the bench sometimes, and there's been some games where he'll look over and says, you can't hear the player next to you. You can barely hear yourself think. And that's exactly what it's like, especially during, I find, the intros. I'm down at ice level for intermission interviews as well as the opening. And it's in particular that intro when the players come out onto the ice and everybody gets going, the lights are down, and the crowd starts going, it is at times it's impossible to hear. Beforehand, I've said to my producer, I'll be talking into my mic and go, if you're saying something to me, I can't hear you. I have no idea what it is. So I have to get cameramen to cue me sometimes and that sort of thing. So it's become something that now at least I'm very used to. But it was certainly something that the first couple of games you looked around and went, I cannot get over how loud this building is.
So what adjustments did you guys have to make as a crew? You know, was there like hand signals, almost like baseball going on, or did you feel almost like a quarterback that's kind of in enemy territory, even though you're from here? Because, you know, it's so loud, you're trying to hear signals and cues and everything. What kind of adjustments did you guys have to make?
Yeah, well, we certainly weren't able to audible much. But you know what, like I said, I'll have my cameraman sometimes. If I can't hear, I'll say before they come down to me, I'll make sure that my cameraman, because he also has an earpiece in and he's able to hear, I'll say you'll have to cue me because I'm not able to hear, because I'll get a count, usually from the producer, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm not able to hear. So because of that, I'll say you have to cue me. But you get used to it, and at least now you're so in a rhythm with it and you understand the format exactly because it's the same thing every game. You know how the intro is going to go. You know they're going to give you a setup shot. You're going to speak over this, and you have approximate time frames. But it was the first couple games in particular where you just thought, oh my goodness, I have absolutely no idea what anyone is saying to me right now.
And then you talked about the intermission interviews that you're doing with the players. You're also at ice level. You said to the Free Press that you find sometimes players, they open up to you a little bit more. How do you figure that? And do you think it has something to do with the fact that you are a mom, you have a family, so maybe they think you understand that?
I don't know. And when I made the comment, I just think that sometimes a lot of players, and this is particularly the case with CFL, because you get a lot more time to sit down and chat with the guys, that it's not just, okay, what's going on in the field, this, let's break down that. It's just that you sit and you form relationships a little bit more with them, because a lot of the guys have family going on, so we'll sit and we'll talk about how the kids are, the wives are, how's everybody either adjusting to Winnipeg or that sort of thing. And it's the same thing. Chris Mason, his daughter, and one of his daughters and my daughter have the same name. And so we'll just always joke all the time about how our kids are doing. And I just think that sometimes I don't know if it puts people more at ease, but it's not always just business. There's just more of a humanity aspect to it. And I love being able to sit and talk. As a mom, I'm always that person that likes to sit and, how are your kids doing? What's the new thing that they're into right now? And so we'll show stories about what shows our kids are watching and sort of thing. So I love finding out stuff like that. And I always laugh because so many players and whether it be coaches or whoever, they love sharing those stories, right? And I used to always joke that I think that they were so happy to have a woman around that they could tell these stories to, because maybe other men, they don't want to bring out their camera and their phone and say, oh, look at what my son did or look at what my daughter did. Whereas with me, we're sitting there sharing pictures of our kids and sort of thing. So it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it.
You know what, and I can almost relate to that just because, I was getting my hair cut the other day, and my hairdresser was saying, you'd be amazed how much people actually open up to us because, you know, they see us so often. And she's like, I don't know if it's because I'm a girl or what it is, but, you know, people just open up. So I can imagine it's the same with the players, just like you said. We talked to you were in Vancouver, Toronto, and now Winnipeg. You're all over the place, even if you're stationed in Winnipeg. How do you balance work, family, and then is there a social life in there anywhere?
Not often. You know, with a 2-year-old also, she goes to bed pretty early. So so a lot of the socializing that we do, like having people over for dinner, that sort of thing. But no, it's a balance that I constantly search. I'm constantly in search of. I don't necessarily do it well all the time. I'm quite the workaholic. I enjoy work so much, and because of all the odd hours that go along with work, or you know, it may be an off day, but the Jets are on the road, so you're watching the Jets game home. So there's no consistency with it. You never know. It's not a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 sort of thing. But it's a balance that I'm constantly in search of. But I have a really supportive family, which helps out a lot, and here's hoping that I get better at it.
So with all the traveling, and you mentioned off the top the Stanley Cup Championships, the World Juniors, the Grey Cups, are there any, I won't make you pick one, but are there a couple of memories that stick out in your head the most from the career so far?
Well, you know, you could really take one. I want to say that I've done maybe 3 World Junior Championships, and I did the one in Sweden in 2000, and I couldn't even tell you what it was, maybe 2007, something like that. And that was quite the experience because, I mean, you're over in this really small town in Sweden. It's this industrial town. You're staying at this little hotel. There's nothing that's really open. You're looking around, and I said, I've never been so excited to see a McDonald's before because at least you went there and you thought it's open and I know what I'm ordering because I ordered a ham and pineapple pizza and it showed up with bananas on it, and I thought this is not going to work out well. But the Stanley Cup Finals are always fun, and the great thing is that with TSN in particular, we have such great crews, whether it be with CFL or NHL, and they're a ton of fun to work with. Everybody gets along really well, and you're all working towards the same goal. And to be able to be at some of those big events where you see colleagues that you don't get the opportunity to see at other times throughout the year, I couldn't pick one that really stands out, but I look forward to, in particular, I always say I love doing Grey Cups. That would be, as much as I love doing Stanley Cup Finals are a ton of fun, but Grey Cups are really great. You're there for a week and just you see the same fans. It's amazing even for me that when I look around and I think, oh no, I recognize that guy. And it's this ability to bring together people from across the country, and everyone shows up and they have a great time for a week. Everyone's so excited to see players or be around that atmosphere. I always say that's one event that I think even if you're not a CFL fan, everybody should take in at some point is a Grey Cup week.
I will take your advice and go to a Grey Cup.
There you go.
You talked about some of the colleagues that you don't usually get to see. Maybe now that you're out of Toronto, you don't get to hang out with these guys so much. This is almost just a personal question for me. The guys like Jay Onrait,
I knew that Jay and Dan were going to be.
Naturally, because my question would be, are they just like that off of camera, or is that something that they got to drum themselves up for and do the Winnipeg Jets kind of half a handshake, elbow bumping, and then they get on camera and they go ahead? No,
those guys are great guys, and it's funny because I knew you were going to ask about Jay and Dan because there are few people that I get asked about more than Jay and Dan, but they're so entertaining and they're such great guys and they have so much fun with their show, and that's what sports is. I mean, sports is fun. It's not really serious, and just their comedic abilities and the chemistry that those two have together is great. But no, when you go to events with them or you see them off camera, that's definitely the way they are. They keep everybody in that newsroom laughing.
Perfect. That's Sara Orlesky joining us on Sports Select Sports Talk. Hopefully you enjoyed the brief look into a life of a broadcaster that's been all over Canada covering Grey Cups, World Junior Championships, and Stanley Cup Finals. Thanks, Sara, for joining us once again, and thank you for joining us on Sports Select Sports Talk.